Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a recap to my draft that happened, not yesterday, but the day before. This is a 12-team PPR draft. The only difference between it being like a normal standard league, I guess I would say, is it has 2 flexes, so that is a bit of a different roster setup, but I've noticed that a lot of leagues now do actually have double flex. The roster positions are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, 2 flexes, kicker, defense, and then 8 bench spots. We expanded the bench due to the fact of the coronavirus, and if players are going in and out and all that stuff, and if you don't really know, I think just having a deeper bench is going to be very helpful for that. We also added 4 IR spots opposed to the normal 2, so it is going to be a little bit different. Made the draft slightly longer, but we managed to draft relatively fast. Now, during this draft, I am Team Notorious. I am the 6th pick of the draft. I'll be talking my process of my picks during this, and I'm also going to be talking about what I thought of all of the picks that are happening throughout the draft and give you guys my overall feeling of each team at the end. I'm going to give every single team a team grade. My friends are probably watching this. This is my at-home league with my friends. I have another draft coming up on Friday. Another at-home league. Some different people, some of the same people. That has been going on for 8 years or 9 years. This league has been going on. This is the 3rd year. Now, I came in 2nd place 2 years ago. Last year, didn't do as hot. Came like right in the middle. Came right in the middle. And now this year, I'm looking to get that number 1 place like I always dream of, and I will get this year because I really believe that my team is very strong. So to start off the draft, the first pick was Christian McCaffrey, followed by Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas. Pretty much the exact identical what you would expect to happen in the first 5 picks of a draft. The running backs obviously are going to go off the board early in pretty much every single league. I expect Michael Thomas to be around pick 5 to 7 in every single league, so nothing too out of the ordinary there. Now, at the 6th pick, you guys may argue that, oh, Nick, you kind of reached up a little bit. You went ahead and got Joe Mixon. Oh, that's a little too early for him. In my opinion, I think Joe Mixon is a top 5 running back. I have him ranked as my number 5 running back behind, obviously, CMC, Barkley, Zeke, and Alvin Kamara, so I was happily going to take him there. Now, if you wanted, you could go with the safer pick of Derrick Henry. I was thinking about that as well, but I don't fucking lie to you guys in my videos. I preach Joe Mixon as being an excellent player, so I went ahead and drafted him early in the draft where I typically would pick him in mock drafts, so I was very happy getting him there. And I forgot to tell you guys, if you guys do end up enjoying this video, please make sure to click that subscribe button. It's free, and I put out content every single day. So the next couple of picks to close out the first round were Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, CEH, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, and Nicholas Chubb. None of those picks really out of the ordinary either. CEH going at the 9th pick to my friend Ravi. Obviously here, that is a pick that is going to be very decisive in the first round. I think CEH is going to go in the first round of a lot of leagues. Seeing him go at the 9th spot there does not really surprise me, but I have seen him go a lot earlier than that, and I have seen him fall into the 2nd round, so I was very anxious to see where he would go. He found his spot inside of the first round at the pick 9. I do like CEH, not saying that's a bad pick. I was just very curious to see where he would end up going, and then Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins. So we only saw 3 wide receivers come off in the first round, which is kind of what I expected, since leagues this season are going to be very, very, very front-loaded with the running back position in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Then you really start to see a wide receiver run in like the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. Now to move on to the 2nd round of the draft, obviously that person has the turn pick. My friend Brandon goes Tyreek Hill, and then Josh Jacobs, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, and then it was my pick with Kenyon Drake. So to understand these picks here, none of this really out of the ordinary either. Austin Eckler was the guy that I was eyeing on the board, and I got a bit pissed off when Kevin went ahead and picked him there at the 17th spot, but hey, that's just me. I really like Austin Eckler a lot. I really thought he would be good in this season. I still think he is going to be great, and I was really rooting for me to get him, but I didn't end up getting him, but I was very happy with Kenyon Drake at that spot. With that said, the 2nd round already with 3 wide receivers off the board, not even halfway through it, which is not very surprising to me, since like I said, towards these back half of the round picks, you see a lot of people go with the double wide receiver strategy. That is exactly what Mike ended up doing. I believe he drafted Julio Jones and Devontae Adams, if I am correct, and yes, that is exactly what he did, getting 2 wide receivers back-to-back, Michael Jordan 96-97, so that is a strategy that is very, very good, or not very good because I prefer to go the double running back strategy, but the double wide receiver strategy is going to be something you're seeing a lot at that 10 pick. and then coming back into the second round. After Aaron Jones, like I said, I drafted Kenyon Drake. Now, I was happy with Kenyon Drake at that spot. I really thought he was going to get taken ahead of me. To Matt ahead of me, he picked Aaron Jones instead of Kenyon Drake. I personally believe that Kenyon Drake is going to finish inside of the top 12 at the running back position. Deep down the edge of last season, we really saw Kenyon Drake tear it up after getting traded from the Miami Dolphins to the Arizona Cardinals. I think we see a lot out of Kenyon Drake this year. I think he gets a lot of receptions as well as a lot of rushing opportunity for that Arizona offense. And while it is dubbed the air raid offense, it's Cliff Kingsbury's system, they don't really throw the ball as much as you would think they would for a team called the air raid system. Kenyon Drake will get his in the ground as well as dump offs from Kyler Murray. So I really like Kenyon Drake here in the second round, and I was happy to find him on my team at pick 19. After that, we see Leonard Fournette, Miles Sanders, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Mike Evans. Now, this is a league with my friends. Aiden, kind of newer to fantasy football, drafts Patrick Mahomes in the second round. Like I told you guys, very typical for the big two quarterbacks to go in the second or the third round, that being Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Pat Mahomes coming true here in the second round. Same thing goes with tight end Travis Kelce. David selects Travis Kelce at the 23 pick. That makes a lot of sense because Kelce and Kittle are likely going to come off the board at that 2-3 turn as well. Interesting, Johnny finds Miles Sanders at the 21 pick, which is very late for what Miles Sanders was looking like he was going to be before he ended up getting hurt week to week. Now, do I like that pick? I do, and I don't at the exact same time, because I'm still not sure that Doug Peterson doesn't just bring in another running back to fuck Miles Sanders right in the ass, put some back shots straight onto him. That may end up happening, but it could end up happening is they don't bring anyone in. Miles Sanders is still the workhorse back like he could have been if they don't bring anyone in, so it's really a double-edged sword right there. Do they bring in another running back or don't they? If they don't bring one in, this is probably the greatest pick of the draft in the second round. If they do bring someone in, then this is looking like a terrible pick. So it really is either way of what happens, but that's the risk you take in the second round, and I agree with the pick right now. Not too sure I will agree with it a couple of weeks from now. Pat Mahomes, like I said, I don't like getting quarterback early, but if you want Patrick Mahomes, you probably have to draft him in the second or third round of a majority of leagues. At pick 25, we see a pick that I absolutely hate, Todd Gurley, going at the start of the draft. I don't think Todd Gurley is very good. I worry about his knee. I worry about the fact that I don't think that this Atlanta team is really going to run the ball all that often, considering last season they were the most pass-heavy team in the NFL. So I think Todd Gurley is going to be disappointing this season, and at the 301, I would be very disappointed having to draft Todd Gurley there. I'd probably just pivot off the running back position, since I personally didn't believe the running backs were all that good that were available in this round, and would have went more for a wide receiver or maybe a tight end. So after Gurley, we see Kenny Golladay come off the board, followed by DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, and George Kittle. I was very disappointed that DJ Moore did not end up falling to me at my pick. He was the guy I was really gunning on the board. At 28, I fucking hate Amari Cooper. Johnny was dubbing him as the $100 million man during the draft, and he is. That guy made a brick load of money, but the amount of money the guy makes doesn't mean that he's necessarily that skilled of a player. He is a solid player, but he is very inconsistent, has good games, then has fucking awful games, then a great game, then an awful game, then like 4 awful games in a row, then 5 amazing games in a row. It's impossible to figure out what Amari Cooper is going to do on a week in, week out basis. So I'm going to go ahead and avoid Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper will probably finish inside the top 15 at wide receiver, strictly because when he has those good games, it does really help you win. So after George Kittle, it was my pick here with Allen Robinson. So we went with the 2 running back stack early in the draft. We got Mixon and Kenyon Drake, and now we added our first wide receiver of the draft in Mr. Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears. I am very high on Allen Robinson. I talk Allen Robinson up in a lot of mock drafts, and again, I speak it in the mock drafts. I tell you guys to do this, and I take my own advice. I don't tell you guys to do one thing and then completely pivot off of it and do the opposite. I believe in Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has done it with the most garbage quarterbacks the NFL has ever had. He's done it with Blake Bortles. He's done it with Kissintich Trubisky, and I think he can do it with 9-inch Nick Foles starting for the Chicago Bears. And even if it's not him, I think even with Mitch Trubisky, he has that top 10 potential. So I believe a lot in Allen Robinson, and I happily got him there in the middle of the third round. After that, we saw Lamar Jackson, followed by Cooper Kupp, Le'Veon Bell, Chris Carson, Odell Beckham Jr., and Adam Thielen. So Lamar and Pat Mahomes obviously gone by the 2-3 turn. Like I said, what happened? Same thing went with Kittle and Kelce, so nothing too out of the ordinary there. Like I said, if you want one of those quarterbacks, you want one of those tight ends, you probably have to pull the trigger in the second or third round. If you're in like a normal league, if you're playing with some super sharps, then maybe that's not going to happen. But this is just your average league with all my friends. You know, we're all just a bunch of guys that are just dudes that like to play fantasy football. So after that, like I said, Odell Beckham Jr. is a pick that I fucking hate. I talk about this all the time. OBJ, they're in too run-heavy a team to draft him in the third round. I personally believe that's one of the worst picks of the draft. Regardless of who drafts him, Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think is going to end up doing very good since they are going to be so run-heavy. Some other picks that this pick right here, Le'Veon Bell, is probably the best pick in the third round, or one of my favorite running backs in the third round, due to the fact that I think he can't do worse than he did last season, still finish as a top 20 running back, and being so inefficient, I think he gets that back in 2020 and plays much better. So I do like Le'Veon Bell a lot in the third round, would prefer him in the fourth round, but hey, when the running backs are flying off the board, that's the price you're going to have to pay for a running back who's not necessarily going to be a top 12 guy. The fourth round begins with Juju Smith-Schuster, followed by Melvin Gordon, David Johnson, James Conner, Calvin Ridley, and Jonathan Taylor. Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy that I think is probably a pick that I won't have on many teams, but he's not a pick I hate. I could see the bounce-back season. It really relies on Big Ben Roethlisberger, on if Juju will be able to have that bounce-back or not. Melvin Gordon's a guy I'm not a big fan of, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think Philip Lindsay is going to really hinder him. David Johnson is a pick that is an absolute risk, but that's the risk you're going to take. Mike drafted 2 wide receivers early. That's the risk you take at running back. David Johnson could either blow up on your opponent's face, blow a fat load straight onto your opponent, or blow one straight onto Mike's face. So we will all see what happens come the time of the season starting in a couple of weeks. James Conner, also a risky pick, but that's what you get in the 4th round of the draft. That's why I say to load up on running backs early. After that, we see Calvin Ridley, one of my favorite wide receivers. I was sitting next to Kevin. He watches my fucking videos. He picked Calvin Ridley right in front of me. He knew what I wanted. He knows I like Calvin Ridley, so he did that. And then my friend Matt selected Jonathan Taylor there at the 42 pick. He went to Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor also went to Wisconsin. I love Jonathan Taylor. I really wanted him here. That was my pick. It was in my head that I was going to take him there, and he doesn't come to me. But I didn't panic. I didn't wait like 2 minutes to fucking figure out who I wanted to pick. I went with Bobby Woods, Bobby Trees. Robert Woods, one of my favorite wide receivers. I moved him ahead of Cooper Kupp, so I was happy to take him here inside of the 4th round. I thought this was a great value here for Robert Woods, and I was very happy with that pick to start off the draft with 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers, even though I typically preach maybe 3 running backs and 1 wide receiver. But that's just how the draft went. You guys have to understand that if the draft goes a different way, you can't just stick with the same strategy and draft a running back there just because you said you were going to and not get the value correct at the position. So after that, we see Devin Singletary, a pick that I absolutely hate, followed by Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, definitely a very safe pick inside of the 4th round, a guy that you can definitely see finishing inside of the top 12. After that is Keenan Allen, Kareem Hunt, and Mark Andrews. So Mark Andrews does not escape the 4th round. He goes ahead of Zach Ertz. In a lot of leagues, you can see Zach Ertz go ahead of him. I personally like Mark Andrews more. I think that's a good pick. The reason why I don't like Devin Singletary, and I just talked about it, is because I think that Zach Moss is going to be heavily involved in that offense, and I don't think Devin Singletary gets enough touches to be worthy of that 4th round pick. Kareem Hunt, obviously a bit of a reach in the 4th round, but I don't necessarily hate it, considering I think he is going to be a very solid flex option or a running back too for your team. To begin the 5th round, if you guys have enjoyed this video thus far, please make sure to click that subscribe button. Like I said, it's free. I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. To start off the 5th round, we see A.J. Brown, who is a wide receiver that is kind of just indifferent to me. I don't see him being a top 10 guy. I don't really see him being a top 12 guy, but I don't really see him finishing outside of the top 20. So he's just an okay wide receiver too that I'm not in love with because I don't really see top 10 potential for him, but there's obviously a way that happens if they're not as run heavy as they were last season. After that, we see one of the safer picks in the 5th round, and that is Jarvis Juice Landry. That's a guy you could probably get a round or 2 later, but you reach up and get him. You get a guy as your wide receiver 1 or 2 that is just a safety net to lock and load into the roster every single week. Now, the thing with Jarvis Landry is, will he be healthy to play week 1? I personally believe so. So that's the risk you're taking there in the 5th round. After that's Cortland Sutton, a guy I'm moving more up on, but I'm not all the way sold in on, since I think there's going to be so many guys in Denver, so many wide receivers there, that it is a bit worrisome, especially since we don't really know how good Drew Lock is. After that, we see Baby Chark, Baby Chark, followed by T.Y. Hilton, and then I went with David Montgomery, get my 3rd running back onto my roster. The thought process between David Montgomery was it was going to go down fucking hill at the running back position if I did not select David Montgomery there. So I went ahead and selected him. I know I have 2 Chicago Bears players on my team. I know they're not the greatest team, but hey, at the end of the day, I think David Montgomery is going to be very involved this season, and as one of my flexes, I like that pick. T.Y. Hilton went before me, like I talked about before. Don't like T.Y. Hilton. No. Dikembe, no for T.Y. Hilton. I really don't see a scenario where T.Y. Hilton is amazing this year, since I feel like he has been getting hurt the last couple of years. Now, obviously, if he stays healthy, I could see him having a great season with Phillip Rivers. I'm just not sure that is the season we see in 2020 after we went David Montgomery. Another pick that I don't love, but I don't hate in Stephon Diggs. Think he's definitely just an okay pick there inside of the 5th round. After that, Mark Ingram. I hate Mark Ingram. Not a fan at all. I think he is a little bit too much overpriced due to the fact that he was scoring so many touchdowns last year. I don't believe that he will come down with that many touchdowns this year, so I decrease him in my rankings, and not worth that pick. After that, we see a reach of Tyler Boyd ahead of scary Terry McLaurin. I don't know what Ravi was thinking. Terry McLaurin, definitely the far better pick there. And you guys know, if you've been here for a while, I fucking get down on my knees for Tyler Boyd. I love Tyler Boyd, but I also love Terry McLaurin. I think he will finish higher. After that, we see a reach in Kerryon Johnson, followed by Devontae Parker. Kerryon Johnson is listed way too high on the NFL rankings on the website for NFL fantasy. Don't draft Kerryon Johnson. Don't draft either of the running backs, personally, in my opinion, unless you're getting a nice discount on Swift. So the 6th round begins with Ronaldo Jones of the Tempe Buccaneers. I thought that was a reach, considering I liked Cam Akers and some other guys ahead of him. But at the end of the day, Ronald Jones is a guy that I could see with top 15 upside. After Ronald Jones, we see DK Metcalf. Interesting enough, typically we see Lockett and Metcalf kind of go as a combination, like a package. And then typically one of them goes, then the other one goes slightly after that. Did not end up happening. There was about a round difference between those picks. So something interesting to note from a real draft versus a lot of the mock drafts I've been doing. Cam Akers in the 6th round now seems like an absolute steal, considering Darrell Henderson went down, and there's potential for him to miss a couple of games. That's really going to elevate Cam Akers' stocks up. I was a huge believer in Cam Akers before the injury. Now I'm even more bought in. I think that was an excellent pick by Mike. After that, we see Easy E. Evan Ingram. He's a Giants fan. Not sure if that's why I picked him. He's injury prone. I don't like Evan Ingram. That's really just the thing about it. I think Evan Ingram's a very good player. I think he might be actually one of the best tight ends in the NFL if he could stay healthy. But the thing with Evan Ingram is he's never fucking healthy. So after that, we see Julian Edelman, very safe pick. Michael Gallup, Cowboys fan, picks Michael Gallup. Not too surprised. After that, we see James White come off the board. James White to myself. Now, I love James White. I talk him up so much. I draft him. That's true with all these guys. I talk them up, and I will actually draft them in my league. I'm not fucking lying to you guys. James White, I believe, has top 12 potential. He has done it before in New England. He's done it with Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, but I understand that Tom Brady's gone, but Cam Newton can dump the ball off. He has done it in the past. I believe in James White, so I'm going to go ahead and draft James White here at pick 67. After I went with James White, we see Will Fuller come off the board. Now, this is the pick where Will Fuller is going to be gone probably in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Will Fuller is a guy with a whole tremendous amount of upside. If healthy, Will Fuller will be a league winner in the 6th round, so I actually do not mind that pick. Raheem Mostert, he's the king of the running back by committee in San Francisco, but I don't really want to draft anyone in a committee, so I don't love it. After that, Zach Ertz, so decent drop-off until Zach Ertz goes, so very solid value in the 6th round there. For Aiden, after that, Marlon Mack, definitely a bit of a reach, considering he's only going to be good for like 3 or 4 games. But if you can squeeze 3 or 4 games out of him and trade him to the guy with Jonathan Taylor, or just fucking trade him to some dumbass who doesn't know that Marlon Mack is going to lose his job a couple weeks in, that is definitely some okay value there, but I don't love it. I'd much rather rate on Marlon Mack. After that, we see Deshaun Watson to close out this round. I really like Deshaun Watson. Not ahead of some of the other guys that have not been picked yet, but in the 6th round, that's definitely solid value. Now, we've noticed that through 6 rounds, only a couple of quarterbacks have came off the board, but obviously in the 7th round, a bit of a spoiler alert, I think around the 7th, 8th, and 9th round is when we really start to see the quarterbacks fly off the board, and that is very true here in the 7th round. First pick with Deandre Swift. Deandre Swift's a guy that I don't love. I'm not all that bought into. I think he will be okay, but the fact is they don't run the ball enough, in my opinion, to have Deandre Swift picked here, but he's fine in the 7th round. I just don't necessarily love the pick. After that, Russell Wilson, followed by Jordan Howard, and then a quarterback run. And I always preach, guys, don't hop on the run. Don't jump on it. Just because a bunch of guys are taking quarterbacks doesn't mean that you have to, but I hopped on the run. I joined the run. I went against my own kind of what I preach, but I do this because I felt that the quarterback that was available at my pick was not coming back to me, and I really liked him. So after Jordan Howard, we see Dak, then Drew Brees. I don't really understand what George was thinking, drafting Drew Brees ahead of Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray might be 5'6", just like George, but it does not really matter because Kyler Murray is going to be tearing it up this season. Kyler Murray is a goddamn fucking beast. I really believe in Kyler Murray. He's going to rush the ball more than he did last year. We saw him start to use his legs down the stretch. He may have little legs. He's got those little legs, but he's going to be able to run amok on that defense. I love Kyler Murray here in the 7th round. After that, we see CeeDee Lamb, rookie wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys. Interesting to see he went with Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. After that, Hunter Henry, Hollywood Brown, Tariq Cohen, Darren Waller, and Sony Michel, which is probably the worst pick of this round by far. Sony Michel is not worth it at all. The defending champ, double champ Brandon drafts Sony Michel, makes a rookie mistake there, even though he's been playing fantasy football for years, drafting a guy on the PUP with a million other running backs there. No. Dikembe, no. I love James White. Not all aboard the Sony Michel train anymore. I was until I figured that they added Lamar Miller because he's not going to be healthy. After that, we see a reach in Jalen Reagor, followed by Jalen Reagor's teammate Carson Wentz. Marvin Jones, who's the guy I really wanted in this round. He ends up getting sniped. After that, we see Matty Ice, Brandon Cooks, who's a great value here in the 8th round, followed by Christian Kirk, who I don't actually like that much. But that would not stop me in drafting Christian Kirk since I think he will be a fine player. I just don't really see tremendous upside with him. So I went with Hayden Hurst. I speak Hayden Hurst. I say, every video I say, I want Hayden Hurst. 9th, 10th round. And I saw him in the 8th round, and I thought, I know for a fact someone in this league is going to take him. They watch my videos. I know for a fact they watch some of them. Maybe they don't watch all of them. I highly doubt they have time to watch all these fucking videos. You guys are crazy because you watch all of them. And I love you for that. But Hayden Hurst, I've preached this guy into existence. I fucking love this guy. He's a top 5 tight end for me. I believe Matt Ryan feeds him the ball. I believe this team runs through the tight end. Dirk Cutter loves the tight end position. Hayden Hurst was available at pick 91. So I picked him. I don't think it's a reach. I love Hayden Hurst, so he had to be the obvious selection there for me. I thought the tight end I thought he was going to go soon, so I had to pull the trigger on that. After that, we see A.J. Green, another horrible pick. A.J. Green, if healthy, top 10 wide receiver. But the if is like, it's impossible, the if. He literally has not been able to stay healthy. Out of the last 4 years, he's missed more than half of his games. I don't believe in A.J. Green. I think he's a great player. I feel sorry that he's this injury prone. But just because I feel sorry for the guy doesn't mean I won't bash the fact that he was drafted here. After that, Sterling Shepard, followed by Debo Samuel, Darius Slayton, and John Brown, both wide receivers of the New York Football Giants, going in the same exact round in the 8th round. Pretty interesting. I like Darius Slayton. I also like Sterling Shepard. Debo Samuel smacked in the middle of the Giants sandwich. Pretty good pick for Debo if he can get healthy quick. If he doesn't, it's worrisome. Now, I drafted Ayuk later. That's a spoiler alert. But Ayuk ended up getting hurt now. So I really don't fucking know what's going to happen. San Francisco's wide receiver core is absolutely decimated. Now we are in the 9th round, and the 9th round of this draft is brought to you by Manscaped. If you want to have the nicest family jewels in your fantasy football league, get Manscaped. If that shit looks like, it might look down there a little bit like Zeke's haircut downstairs, but you don't want it to look like that. You want it to look A1 like Mr. Clean's head, so that's what you want. You want to go ahead and get Manscaped. Code Notorious at checkout for free shipping as well as 20% off. I'd really appreciate it if you guys just checked it out. The link is down below. So the 9th round begins with a defense, which is the worst pick of the draft. I've shaded a million picks, said I fucking hated them, said all these picks were atrocious. That's the worst pick because you can't be a dumbass and draft a defense in the 9th round. You wait till the last 2 rounds to draft your defense because now his running back 3, his wide receiver 3 is not going to be as good as it would have been had he have drafted a running back or wide receiver in this spot instead of a defense. Now, interesting enough, Gronk goes in the 9th round. Now, we've been seeing Gronk really rise up in some of these drafts, going like the 7th round. So the 9th round for Gronk, I'm not paying that price, but I don't hate the pick due to the upside of Tom Brady. But that's not really my pick. Yet again, another dumbass drafting a defense. Don't be doing that. Followed by Phillip Lindsay, who's a guy I really liked. He was probably my target in that round. I was a bit sauced by the time it was the 9th round. I was drinking a little bit, but, didn't get I wasn't too lost in the sauce because I was still locked in. I actually found that it was easier to draft while I was drunk because I was actually thinking a lot. Like, I wasn't really second guessing anything. I just saw the guy on the board and I was like, that's my guy. And I think that's actually a good way to draft, but obviously you have to be old enough to do that. So if you're not 21 plus, don't be doing that. Drugs are bad. So after Phillip Lindsay, we see Jameson Crowder, Jets fan, drafts a Jets player. Jameson Crowder definitely has big potential. I don't see it, though. I just don't see it. I don't see him getting the ball a zillion times like last year, which upped his production. So after that, I picked Deontay Johnson. Now, I wasn't all bought in on Deontay Johnson at this pick, but I was like, you know what, fuck it. I like Deontay Johnson. I think that if Big Ben is healthy, Deontay Johnson should be good. The reports out of camp are Deontay Johnson's running as the wide receiver too. That's what I like to hear. That's music to my fucking ears. So I went with Deontay Johnson here at pick number 102. After I went with Deontay Johnson, J.K. Dobbins came off the board, another rookie to Matt's team. I like J.K. Dobbins, not all that much in the earlier picks because I've seen him go a little bit higher. In the 9th round, though, that is a solid price for him, but I do not think he will be all that involved unless Mark Ingram was to get hurt. After that, we see Josh Allen, which kind of made me regret drafting Kyler Murray in the 7th round since Josh Allen fell so far into the 9th round. After that, we see Tevin Coleman, who's a pick that I'm not really super bought into. Definitely a solid handcuff there with the team that uses running back by committee. So it makes sense that he'll go that high. Austin Hooper, god-awful pick. He's not going to be the same as he was in Atlanta. They just don't use the tight end as much in Cleveland. Another bad pick with the defense. And then Jared Cook, who's just a safe tight end. Now into the 10th round, we see TB12, Tom Brady, and then a kicker. Now, first kicker of the draft. Don't love that either. After that, we see Aaron Rodgers, who I'm not all bought into. I don't like Emmanuel Sanders. I'm not trying to draft a wide receiver 2 on the New Orleans Saints since they just don't really use one. Then Zach Moss. Kevin, yet again, watching my videos, getting the knowledge, snipes my ass. In the 10th round was Zach Moss. I respect it, though, because he gained the knowledge from watching my videos. So much respect to him. Made me a bit mad, though, because I'm really bought in on Zach Moss. I think that this team is going to excel with Zach Moss. Zach Moss has been destroying in practice. So I'm kind of bought in on Zach Moss. After that, we see Jerry Jeudy, another rookie, followed by Cole Hardman. All in love on Cole Hardman. I talk about him all the time. Draft him in the 10th round. In some mocks, you can get him later. But hey, this is probably where he's going to be going in most drafts. Cole Hardman, now the wide receiver 2 likely of the Pat Mahomes offense. Why would you not want that? Why would you not want the second or third option, I guess, because it's Hill and that's Kelsey. Then it's Hardman. The guy's fucking fast as fuck. He's pretty much just as fast as Tyreek Hill, just slightly slower. I mean, that's fucking amazing with a guy who can throw the ball that far. He's a nice firecracker to throw into my flex or my flex 2 on a good week, and he could really win me my week. So I love that value in the 10th round. After that, Sammy Watkins, terrible pick, followed by Preston Williams, who I love, Justin Tucker the fucker, a little too early, and then Golden Tate, and then Keyshawn Vaughn, who I'm not bought into at all. Really just not bought into that. At round 11, we see round 11 start off with Henry Ruggs III, who's a pick I'm not bought into either. I think he will be good for in real life, but not for fantasy. After that, the Patriots defense, too early for a defense, followed by Noah Fant, Latavius Murray, Darrell Henderson, which was a actually pretty fine pick there at the time. Seemed like maybe, just maybe he could be the starter, then he gets hurt, but I won't judge George on that pick because Darrell Henderson was healthy during the draft. So after that, we see Mr. Matt Breida to me. Now, there was no running backs available. I had Kevin by the nuts. I was literally talking to him. I was shit talking to him. I almost wish I had it on camera because of how funny it was, and he will attest to it in the comments. Maybe he will answer to you. He was talking. I was in the 11th round. I was like, if someone takes my guy, I'm going to take your guy, Kevin. And Kevin knew exactly who it was the second I said your guy because he drafted Dalvin Cook. He needs Alexander Madison. It's the 11th round. And I know for a fact that I could get so far in his head if I start talking about Alexander Madison. I wasn't even sure I was going to actually pick Alexander Madison. I was just so far in his head. I was like living rent-free in there. It was fucking hilarious. I went with Matt Breida. He's the guy I also wanted. I think Matt Breida has potential to get a lot of touches this year, definitely a lot of receiving work since Jordan Howard has stone hands on that Miami offense. After that, we see Rashad Penny on the PUP, which is not a good pick, followed by Alexander Matheson, then Duke Johnson. We shall see what happens to Duke with David Johnson there. Will he still be involved? Maybe. If David Johnson goes down, this may be one of the greatest picks of the draft. After Duke, we see Mr. Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, a guy that I have been tooting the horn of. Mike clearly listening, maybe not listening. Maybe he just knows. Maybe he's a sharp. I love Antonio Gibson. Probably not going to be able to start him for a bunch of weeks. But hey, he could become that head honcho back in Washington after that. Love Mr. Matty Snapback. Followed by Justin Jefferson, rookie wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. Going to a Minnesota Vikings fan. Shocker. Followed by the Minnesota Vikings defense to the Minnesota Vikings fan. Shocker? I don't fucking think so. After that, we see Rolls-Royce Freeman, who's a garbage pick. Followed by Mike Williams. Curtis Samuel, garbage pick. Bills defense, garbage pick. Tony Pollard, great pick. And then I went with Anthony Miller. Now, I understand I have 3 Bears on my team. That does sound a little bit crazy since the Bears aren't the greatest team, but hey, it's like with the Lions, in my opinion. I mean, you got Kenny Golladay early, and then later you get Marvin Jones. It's kind of the same thing, except for those two stack is probably better than Allen Robinson and Miller because Marvin Jones is better than Miller, but I think Anthony Miller could have a good season this year. Really looked pretty solid last year. I think if he gets more involved this year, we could see a whole lot of Anthony Miller being a solid flex for fantasy football in 2020. Followed by the Saints defense, which is a garbage pick, followed by Mike Licky on my Gesicki. I like that pick. Danny Dimes, I like that pick. Naheem Hines. I don't know. I kind of like Naheem Hines because if Marlon Mack was to go down, Hines would be very involved. Boston Scott, if they don't end up signing anyone, also a pretty solid handcuff in the 12th round. Obviously, this is 18 rounds, so it is a little long, but we're breaking everything down. Followed by Joe Burrow. Burrow going ahead of his division mate, Baker Mayfield. I like Burrow. Not that bought in on Baker, though. After that, we see TJ Hawkinson, who the reports are out of camp. Oh, he's not feeling 50%, and then there's reports that he's like mossing people, so I have no fucking idea what's happening for TJ Hawkinson. After that, AP, followed by garbage-ass LaShawn McCoy, who's not going to be involved at all this year. Then I handcuffed Kenyon Drake with Chase Edmonds. You draft Drake early, people are talking up Edmonds, you get them both. Very simple. Followed by my main man, Tua Tagovailoa. Matt was kind of shit-talking me like, oh, you didn't draft Tua, I got him. I ain't drafting Tua. I don't fucking want him to hold him for 8 weeks, but he's not even going to play for the first 8 weeks of the season probably. Followed by Deshaun Jackson, who's a week 1 wonder. Followed by Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, Colts defense, don't be drafting defenses this early, Dallas Goedert, and Jamal Williams. Notice how I waited on defense, and I'm still going to get a good defense in the 17th or 18th round whenever I made that pick. After that, Robbie Gould, Robbie Anderson, double Robbie, back-to-back Michael Jordan 96, 97, Will Lutz, Mohamed Sanu, who could be worthy of a pick if N'Keal Harry isn't very good, followed by Greg Zuerlein, Blake Jarwin. Then I went with Damian Harris, the guy who's been, I don't know if this will tell me, pushing for the number 1 job? Yeah, right here it tells you. He's fucking been tearing it up in camp, so I went ahead and drafted him. I think that's worthy of a pick late in the draft. After that was Matt Prater, followed by Alan the Lizard King Lazard, followed by Jack Doyle, who I like, AJ Dillon, and then my favorite pick of the draft, my old bitch lame, but my Young Ho Koo. Shout out to Young Ho Koo. The reasoning behind me going Damian Harris, like I said, was strictly based on the fact that he's been tearing it up in camp, and with Lamar Miller seemed like he's hurt, with Sony Michel seemed like he's hurt, he could really push for that number 1 job. People thought that was possible last year, but he ended up getting hurt. After that, we see Eric Ebron, followed by Jake Elliott, Justin Jackson, Larry Fitz, who's a waste of a pick, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Ayuk, who now maybe have been a waste of a pick. He hurt his hammy, I believe. Tweaks the hammy. Was looking good in practice, though, so maybe he'll come back before the season. I mean, he's a bench play for me, so I don't even need to start him. So I'll be happy hiding him on the bench as long as no one, breaks out and I magically just pick them up and say, fuck you to Mr. Ayuk. After that, we see the Dallas Cowboys, followed by N'Keal Harry, a pick who I like, but has not been doing too well in camp. After that, Kyami Fairbairn, Bears defense, Janu Smith, who I like, Anthony McFarland, Booger's son, shout out to that, followed by Tyler Higbee to start off the 16th round, then Michael Pittman, Carlos Hyde, Kyle Rudolph, Brashad Perriman, OJ Howard. I went with Randall Cobb. It is a deeper type of league, so I went with Cobb later in the draft. I think he could potentially be the wide receiver 1 there if Cooks and Fuller get hurt, and based upon their track records, it's likely that Fuller at least gets hurt. I mean, Cooks he really plays like every game, he just ends up getting concussed. After Cobb, we see old man Renfro, followed by the Chargers defense. Johnny with a fine snipe on my ass right there. I respect that. Followed by the Broncos, Dede Westbrook, and Denzel Mims. Now the 17th round starts, and it starts with Darrington Evans, the handcuff to Derrick Henry, but Darrington Evans is playing god-awful in practice, so not sure that's worth it. Jerick McKinnon, amazing 17th round pick by David right there. Jerick McKinnon, also part of that running back by committee, but could involve as being that number 2 guy. Zane Gonzalez, Mason Crosby, Flash! Oh, savior of the universe. And I went with Matthew Gay of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be my kicker. Darwin Thompson, Cole Beasley, Terrell Williams, Cam Newton in the 17th round. I'm going to be honest with you, I love that pick. I'm not even a huge fan of Cam Newton, but that is amazing value for Mike. The Kansas City Chiefs, and then Ryan Tannehill. And then the 18th round consists of Ito Smith, Dan Bailey, Chris Herndon. Another amazing pick by Mike. After Herndon, we see Big Ben, Tyrod Taylor, Ian Thomas. I went with the Eagles defense because they're playing the Washington football team week 1, followed by J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Danny Amendola. Someone has to draft Antonio Brown. Someone does it in every single draft. It's always going to happen. Someone's going to draft Antonio Brown. Will he pay off? Who knows? Who really knows? And then P.J. Walker, which is obviously a joke pick by David because he was his favorite XFL quarterback, followed by Darius Geis, who's a god-awful pick because he will never play. So now it is time to recap every single fucking team in this league and give them each a grade. So we're going to start off with my own team, and I'm going to give every single team a grade, like I said. So we will begin with my team and then go all the way down. Now, I'm not going to go super in-depth since I kind of went in-depth on the picks, but this might be interesting for you guys to watch how I grade every team. So looking at my own team first, obviously I like my own team, so it's going to get a pretty high grade. Kyler Murray is my quarterback. My 2 running backs are Kenyon Drake and Joe Mixon. My 2 wide receivers are Robert Woods and Allen Robinson. My tight end is Hayden Hurst. My 2 flexes are James White and David Montgomery. My bench consists of Matt Breida, Chase Edmonds, Damian Harris, Brandon Ayuk, Randall Cobb, McCole Hardman, Deontay Johnson, and Anthony Miller. I'm not going to include the grade of the kicker or the defense inside of my rankings or inside of the grades. I just don't think that's too important since they kind of are volatile on each roster. They kind of switch on a week-in, week-out basis for a lot of teams, so especially my team. So overall, I think that my team is very good. I felt very comfortable with the Kyler Murray and Kenyon Drake stack. I think that my roster does look very good. I feel like this is for sure a playoff team, and obviously, the grade you get right now doesn't mean jack of all shit because some of these guys most of the guys on this team will get cut for a whole completely new player who is better than them. Happens every year. That's how it works. There's going to be trades. But out of this roster, I feel like my team is very good. I got all the guys that I like, that I target in my mock drafts. I was very shocked that this actually happened. So I'm going to give myself an A here to an A-. I would have preferred to have waited on Kyler Murray, and maybe my team would have looked different had I went Josh Allen, and maybe I would have liked that better. So it's an A-. Could have been an A. I do like my roster overall, though, and I feel pretty confident in it. So now on to the next team to talk about here, and that is the team I'm playing up against week 1, and that is Ravi with Lockett in my pocket. His team consists of his starting quarterback is Matt Ryan, followed by Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. His wide receivers are Tyler Boyd, Chris Godwin. His tight end is Evan Ingram, and his starting 2 flexes are James Conner and Hollywood Brown. His bench is comprised of Big Ben Roethlisberger, Tevin Coleman, Duke Johnson, Curtis Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders, Mohamed Sanu, Tyrell Williams, and Kyle Rudolph. Starting roster, probably very good. B+ to A- starting roster, really pretty solid. Bench completely fucking awful, to be completely honest with you. This pick is, I don't understand that. Sanu and, like, come on. I don't know. I just don't really feel this. So this team is like a C, but the fact that the starters are so good could obviously completely elevate him to be very good, and I would not be surprised if he was a playoff team. So that's my grade on that team. Next team, we got the defending champ, the double champ, won twice in a row. His team is comprised of Tom Brady, Ronald Jones, Nick Chubb, Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill, Jared Cook, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster. His bench is comprised of Ryan Tannehill, Anthony McFarland, Sony Michel, Ito Smith, Jamal Williams, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Reagor. Starting roster, again, we see a team with a great starting roster and a bad bench. So that's just how I feel. That's another team that's like a C, but their starting roster is very good. So that team could obviously be a playoff team and probably win the whole fucking league, considering he manages to win every single time. The next team here, take Mahomes country road to the place I belong with Johnny. And his team is Dak Prescott, Alvin Kamara, Miles Sanders, Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, Mike Gesicki, Adrian Peterson, DJ Chark. He's going to have to take AP out and put in like Alan Lazard or Sterling Shepard to make this roster look much better. His bench is comprised of Phillip Lindsay, Raheem Mostert, Latavius Murray, Danny Amendola, Larry Fitz, Alan Lazard, Sterling Shepard, and Preston Williams. Some high upside guys on the bench in Sterling Shepard, Lazard, and Preston Williams. His running backs, there could be much more to be asked for there, but I do like Lindsay. I am kind of okay with Mustard. Much better bench than the last two teams, so I'm going to give Johnny's team a B here. I think this team is pretty good. Next team here, Raindrop. Crop tops. Matt, he has Lamar Jackson as starting quarterback, followed by Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones are starting running backs. His wide receiver is Stephon Diggs. His other wide receiver, Michael Gallup, tight end Blake Jarwin, and his other wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb and Jonathan Taylor. So, did you know this guy was a Cowboys fan? I bet you could have guessed, because this motherfucker has three players in the starting roster from the exact same team, followed by one on the bench as well. Tua Tagovailoa, J.K. Dobbins, Rashad Penny, Tony Pollard, Darwin Thompson, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, O.J. Howard, and Ian Thomas on the bench. Again, this is a team that could be heavily carried by the starting roster. Don't really love the bench. Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Aaron Jones could single-handedly skull fuck any team. So that's like a B- team, but I'm not loving the bench considering he went with so many rookie wide receivers. But like I said, these grades don't mean jack of all shit because this team is going to look completely different to what the team looks like at the end of the season. So after Raindrop Crop Tops, we got George with Jake from State Farm. Starting roster is Drew Brees, Leonard Fournette, Devin Singletary, AJ Green, Michael Thomas, George Kittle, Alshon Jeffrey, Hunter Renfrow, Darrell Henderson, LaShawn McCoy, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Jameson Crowder, Will Fuller, Josh Gordon, T.Y. Hilton, and Sammy Watkins. This is by far the worst team I've seen here. I mean, he does have the Brees and Michael Thomas stack, but it is 4 point per passing touchdown. I don't love Devin Singletary, don't love AJ Green, has George Kittle. If he elected to not take Kittle and went with another running back or wide receiver in that spot and went with a different late round tight end, this team would look much better. I am not sold in on this team at all. This is a D team, but like I said, anyone could turn this around. After that, I don't know what to name my team. Aiden with starting quarterback of Patrick Mahomes, followed by Ezekiel Elliott, Jordan Howard, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Zach Ertz, Cortland Sutton, Debo Samuel, obviously. Hurt, probably going to miss a couple of games, obviously, to start the season. Danny Dimes, Justin Jackson, Antonio Brown, Jack Doyle, Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson. Aiden kind of new to fantasy drafts, 2 defenses, 2 kickers, which is a no-no in fantasy football. So that right there is docking him. I like this team better than the last team, but he has 2 defenses and 2 kickers. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is like a C-, but obviously has that potential because Zeke and Pat Mahomes are very fucking good. So after that, we see cooking up Kittle Corn, last season's loser, dead last. So shout out to Jamie for coming in dead last, but it's okay. We love you anyways. After that, Deshaun Watson. His team starts off with Watson, Gurley, McCaffrey, Evans, A.J. Brown, Mark Andrews, John Brown, DeAndre Swift, Joe Burrow, Darrington Evans, Geist, Boston Scott, Keyshawn Vaughn, Denzel Mims, Henry Ruggs III, and Eric Ebron. So this is a team that could be very scary. Going up against Christian McCaffrey and Mike Evans and Mark Andrews and A.J. Brown if he hits and Todd Gurley if he hits is going to be very scary this season. I think this is a very solid roster. Doesn't have the greatest bench, which is going to dock him to about a C+, but overall a pretty solid squad for Jamie, so hopefully he doesn't come in last again. After that, we have Feeling Dangerous Baker Mayfield by David here, and we can see that Russell Wilson is a starting quarterback, Kareem Hunt, Saquon Barkley, Jarvis Landry, Kenny Golladay, Travis Kelce, Marlon Mack, and Darius Slayton close out his starting lineup. That is his starting roster. Now we're going to look at the bench. Baker Mayfield, P.J. Walker, who's obviously just a joke pick who he's going to cut. A.J. Dillon, Naheem Hines, Jerick McKinnon, Golden Tate, D.D. Westbrook, Rob Gronkowski. So he does have 2 tight ends. He did go with Gronk and Kelsey, which is kind of crazy to me. But that's just me. I think his team is pretty solid. The bench does have its holes. It has holes in it. Obviously, having 3 quarterbacks is a hole. 2 tight ends to me is kind of a hole. A.J. Dillon has a lot of upside. Golden Tate, Jerick McKinnon, D.D. Westbrook, all picks with upside. I think this is a solid roster. A little too many Cleveland Browns on the team. Probably pretty solid. Probably not like one of those teams that necessarily I think with this roster is going to be contending for the playoffs, but not a team I see finishing in like dead last. So this is a C team to me. Next team up, we have Team 10. This is Team 10, bitch. Who the hell are flipping you? With Kevin. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying these draft breakdowns. I know it's super interesting since you guys aren't even in this league, but I hope that you guys do end up enjoying regardless because I hope you guys have had a fun time. So his team is Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Hunter Henry, Julian Edelman, Mark Ingram. Very, very, very good starting roster. If Cook is healthy. Now, you guys know how I talk about Cook. I don't like drafting Cook in the first round, but he has Madison on the bench. So that is very good. His bench is fucking rock solid. Alexander Madison, Tyrod Taylor. Don't like Tyrod. I'd rather just cut him. Zach Moss, Cole Beasley, Brandon Cooks, N'Keal Harry, Deshaun Jackson, and Rashad Perriman. This is an excellent draft. This is a team that I could see winning it all. He drafts Mark Ingram. Now, Mark Ingram is a guy that I absolutely hate, but if he scores those touchdowns, could be good. I just don't think he will. So that's kind of why I'm against him. Has a lot of guys on the Chargers, but hey, this is a B+ to an A- team. If I'm being honest, I really like this team. Next team here is Mike with the Pussy Boys, and he has Aaron Rodgers, David Johnson, Chris Carson, Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, Austin Hooper, Tariq Cohen, and Terry McLaurin. Now, I am not a huge fan of Hooper. Not a huge fan of Cohen, but the rest of that starting roster looks very good. Not a huge fan of Rodgers either, but he will be fine. When you draft Rodgers and Devontae Adams, now I am not a huge fan of Rodgers, but I think Adams is going to be great. That is a very solid start to your team, considering Rodgers and Adams are going to play very good together every single game. The only worry is that Rodgers isn't going to become one of those top 10 guys due to the fact that there's really no one else for him to throw to besides Adams, and the team is so run heavy now. The bench is comprised of Cam Newton, Cam Akers, a great pick, Antonio Gibson, Carlos Hyde, Marvin Jones, Mike Williams, and Chris Herndon. This is a bench that I like as well. This team is also A-. I think this team might even be better than mine. I really do like this team, and I don't even like going wide receiver heavy at the beginning of the draft. That's just how much I like the team. And final team, long toe with the other Nicholas of the league. We got 2, Carson Wentz, Melvin Gordon, who I don't like, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham Jr., who I don't like, Darren Waller, Kerryon Johnson, DK Metcalf, Matt Stafford, Royce Freeman, Robbie Anderson, Michael Pittman, Dallas Goedert, Juju Smith has 2 kickers, 2 defenses. So that's obviously a huge negative strike. The starting roster is pretty good. Not a huge fan of Odell or Melvin Gordon or Kerryon Johnson, but had he drafted a little bit better, you would be able to take out Johnson and put someone else in, which you could still probably do. I don't know. This team seems pretty okay. The starting roster is pretty good if he moves some things around correctly. This is a good team. If not, this is just a C team, a team that's not worse in the league, but not the best in the league. So hopefully you guys did end up enjoying my breakdown of this. If you had a great time, please make sure to click that subscribe button. Again, this is my team on the screen. I love each and every single one of you motherfuckers. Thank you all for getting through this fucking huge-ass video, probably was like 40 minutes long. I hope you guys did end up enjoying. Please make sure to check out Manscaped down below. I love each and every single one of you motherfuckers. Have a great rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you guys later today, potentially with another video, or just in the morning with another banger. Good boy!